My kids are broken. I want yours. This is a long and crazy ride, but I can't even TLDR aside from that title. Okay, so first, I have 3 daughters. At the time this happened, they were 3, almost 4, L, 6, N, and 9, C. My sister, ES, at the time had 2 daughters, aged almost 4 and 7. Our younger 2 are 2 weeks apart. This started just before her daughter. Some minor backstory. ES's kids have 2 fathers. Her elder daughter, N1, has a sperm donor who is a multiple-time felon and was in prison when she was born. And the lies about her dad got outdated to her when she was about 3. Out of the blue, it kinda did a number on her psychologically.
It also didn't help that her mother literally didn't put her down for the first year and a half of her life. She pulled her swing into the bathroom when she showered.
And N1 would take all of her naps on the mother's chest. When she would come to visit, ES would announce that it was N1's nap time, settle into an armchair in the living room, and for the next hour and an hour and a half, no one could make a sound, including my own infant daughter. Her younger one, N2, was born with massive health issues, resulting in being transported as an infant to Boston for emergency surgery, 2 weeks in the NICU, and 3 abdominal surgeries by about 8 weeks old. So ES kinda disappeared one day on N1.
I'm off to have a baby and we'll be a family.
And then she didn't come home for weeks. Also screwed with N1's head. Admittedly, not completely ES's fault. Okay, so this was summer of 2011. My girls and I had a great apartment, but with crap neighbors and a worse landlord.
He decided because that I needed things fixed.
I was a bad tenant, and after pulling some illegal moves, he evicted me. Without cause, he told the judge he just wanted to rent to college students. The judge gave me 2 weeks to move out. I needed to pack house in that time, and to find a new apartment within my insanely low price range, and as I packed, my kids unpacked.
So nothing was happening.
Enter ES. My kids often spent time with her and her kids. 2 states over,
Because they were close in age,
and she had a biggest house on a huge plot of land in the country. Actually, our family's land next door to where our mother had grown up and above the hill from where she and I had been born. I usually sent them to spend a week or 2 every summer with her, because the break was great for all of us. When I told her my frustration regarding the move, she offered to take them earlier than planned. And, in fact, to keep them for a few weeks while I got settled into a new place and unpacked. As I had found a place, but it was currently being renovated due to water damage
by previous owners.
Before they went to her, N and L spent a few days with her dad's mom, GL, who lived across town from us, and who fostered several children. While there, N had been roughhousing with other kids and had slammed into a baby's playpen, waking him up. GL's dog, an annoying little terrier, was super protective of these kids, especially the baby, so he started nipping at N, and actually scratched her cheek with his tooth, breaking skin. I got a call about it, but was told it was a minor thing, and GL had cleaned it up, and she was fine. The next day, I'd arranged for my ex-husband's mom to drive the girls to ES's house, since I had no car. C was to follow a week later, so as we planned for them to be there for about 2 or 3 weeks. She picked them up from GL, brought them to my house to pick up their clothes, etc., which my mom, Psycho Mom or PM, had kind of thrown together for them. The kids didn't even get out of the car. I saw N's face but didn't think a ton of it, although I wasn't happy. It wasn't pretty, but it didn't look too serious. While I got them situated with their things, ES called. She reminded me that I needed to send along a note granting her medical permission to treat my kids, along with their insurance cards.
Just write my name, grant ES temporary custody of N and L as of July 12, 2011. Or something,
she told me. Now, I had always sent this note with them, and it never had it even occurred to either of us to word it that way. And it set off all kinds of weird alarms that she said it that way. No, there's no need for all that. I know I have to write it. I've done it enough times. Don't worry. Besides, there's no way I'd write something giving anyone custody of them. Not that it'd be legally binding anyway. There's a court order with their dad and me. She kind of laughed it off, but it stuck with me. The kids got there that night around 7:30, and ES immediately called and was flipping out about N's cheek. She was cursing out GL, cursing the dog, the whole 9 yards. I told her I was pretty pissed too, but it didn't seem overly severe, just to keep an eye on it. She agreed she would. The next morning, she called and said N's cheek was looking a bit puffy and red. She was starting to worry. I told her that she should get it checked if she was worried, and she said she would after work. That afternoon, she took her to an urgent care, I guess, and got her treated. She had developed cellulitis in the wound, and according to ES, the doctor had claimed that she should have had stitches in it, but it was too late by then. Too much time had passed. I barely got to speak with the girls because they're busy playing. Almost every time I called, the kids were busy. I barely got to speak with them, and their father even less so. Meanwhile, my apartment was supposed to be ready in a week. The landlord lent me another one-bedroom in the meantime, and my stuff was stored in the apartment while they repaired it. But after a week, I was told it would be another week. And also, I was moved into a different apartment because the other one got rented. This kept happening. A week turned into 2, turned into nearly a month. I hadn't seen my kids this entire time. ES didn't have Skype or anything so that I could even video chat them even. And they were constantly busy whenever I called, so I barely spoke to them. And their father even less. He and ES had never liked each other. ES never called us at any point. One day, I called to talk to her, and she told me that N2 and L, both only around 4, were upstairs in the bathtub, while N and N1 were out back playing. She was having a beer. She and I chatted about a number of things, including that L had had trouble sleeping and that ES had repeatedly given her children Benadryl to put her to sleep.
I use it on my kids all the time. There's nothing wrong with it.
I told her that was bullshit. Don't drug my fucking kids. That's not okay. I have never drugged my kids. What the fuck? She popped open her second beer. We talked about growing up with Psycho Mom amongst other things, and she began demanding that I write a book about my life.
People need to hear about it.
She was by then on at least beer number 3 and had begun slurring slightly.
Promise me you'll fucking write a book. Fucking swear this shit to me.
This entire time, the pair of almost 4-year-olds was still in the bathtub upstairs, unsupervised, which the 6 and 7-year-olds were under the supervision of the 9-year-old, C, who had arrived a day or so earlier. Over an hour on this call, and I wasn't able to speak to my children once. But I learned that my daughter was being given unnecessary medication for ES's conveniences, and that N1 had made some deeply concerning comments relating to a possible suicidal thoughts, and that my kids were left unsupervised while she day drank. And my apartment was still not ready. I spoke with the girl's father, KD, who was fed up. I don't care if it is or not. They need to come home. They've been gone long enough. We can make it work until the place is done. They can stay with you during the day while I'm at work and then stay with me at nights. Whatever, but they need to come home. I agreed. It had been nearly a month, and Elle's birthday was fast approaching. I called ES to tell her about this, to tell her that we wanted them home, and she exploded.
That's not happening. They've been here this long. I have rights now. They're not going anywhere. I won't let you take them. You're not even fit. You don't even have a home for them or anything. Plus, you have fucking mental issues.
I pointed out that their father wanted them home and that we had joint custody and he had a home for them.
He isn't fit. He has never been. He's fucking useless. Neither one of you has ever been any kind of a fucking parent. You aren't gonna just take them until I say so.
I was livid by now and called Psycho Mom regarding it. She immediately began echoing the thing that ES had said, and how I wasn't a good enough mom, or how their dad was useless. I told PM that I was done with her at this point. The next day, their dad and I began making plans to get the kids. We decided that we both needed to be present in case of any kind of confrontation, which meant that we would need 2 separate vehicles, as neither of us drove, and there were 3 children to return home. He spoke to his brother-in-law and my mother-in-law, but neither of them could bring us until that Saturday. This was Thursday. I made the mistake of informing ES that we'd be coming on Saturday, and she screamed at me she wouldn't let the kids go, that I wouldn't be taking them. I called the local sheriff, explained the situation, and asked that he can go and check on these children, as I hadn't been able to speak to them for days. He informed her that, when they show up, you will be sending these children home with their parents unless you have a court order signed by a judge in her state. She called me up screaming again because how dare I send the police to her home? Who did I think I was? 7 years she'd lived there and never had the police at her home. And I had traumatized her babies by having cops showing up like that. I told her I would see her Saturday and hung up. That's when I realized what was going on. When we were kids and she'd break her toys, especially her Barbies, she would then steal mine, as I was always more careful with mine. This was the adult version of this. Instead of broken Barbies, she was trying to steal my kids because in their own ways, her own were broken, mentally, in N1's case and physically in N2's, whereas mine were relatively healthy and were mentally well adjusted. It was the broken Barbies all over again. On Friday, I had plans with a friend to go to the mall. She was babysitting her niece, but had a job interview, so had asked me to chill with the niece for a few while she did. On the bus on the mall, PM called me.
What you doing?
I'm in Boston.
Oh, just wondering.
Why do you care?
Just curious. Was just wondering what was up.
Nothing. I'm busy. What do you want? She and I hadn't spoken since the night she screamed at me that ES was right and I was a crappy mom. So I was in no mood. She continued playing games, so I hung up. Got to the mall and my friend's interview was over, so we were all in the food court when PM called yet again. What do you want?
Oh, I just wanted to tell you not to waste everyone's time going to ES's estate tomorrow.
It's not going to be a waste of time to get my kids.
Well, it might be.
They're my kids, it won't be a waste. Why the hell are you even saying this?
Well, because I'm standing on the steps of the courthouse with your sister. She has custody papers in her hands for your kids.
I flipped right in the middle of the mall food court and rushed into the bathroom for even the tiniest bit of privacy to find out anything. PM wasn't saying anything anymore. She was absolutely gleeful, so I hung up on her. I called the girl's father, KD, at work and told him that it was an emergency to get him on the line faster. He flipped out as well. While I was panicking and racing to the bus stop, he rushed from work to the courthouse. While I freaked out on the bus to the point where the driver asked me to calm down and I had apologized to him and the other passengers, I was hysterical though. Once he got to the court, he literally ended up being thrown out because the even-tempered man I knew was livid and apparently screamed at the court clerk, especially upon learning that the judge who had granted ES an emergency hearing ex parte had already left for the 3-week vacation and would not have a first appearance on the matter until the end of the month. This was the 5th. When I arrived, I was given papers which ES had filed, which barely even mentioned KD at all, and which claimed that I slept in, and that my 6-year-old niece tells me she takes her own pills. Well, of course she did. Who else's would she take? But the pièce de résistance was the medical report about the bite on N's face, and how supposedly neither KD nor I had bothered to seek medical attention for it. When I asked the court clerk about C, who wasn't listed on any of the papers, wasn't even mentioned in them, he asked, who? ES had seemingly forgotten that I also had custody of her. Her father had her during the school year, but I was custodial during the summer. And while she'd gone on about how I was such a terrible mother that I shouldn't have N or L, she literally never even mentioned that there was a 3rd child in my legal custody. Somehow the clerk didn't find that weird. Her father picked her up on Saturday.
Elle's birthday was on the 10th, and the night before, I called ES and begged her to bring the kids to come see us, so that we could spend time with her for her birthday.
I don't think it's important enough that she wants to waste 6 hours of her birthday in a car just to see you.
Please, it's her birthday. We've never not been with her. Please.
If it was that important, you should have prioritized getting a car sooner.
I cried myself to sleep, leaving my phone ringer off for a change. When I woke up, I had multiple voicemails from my very clearly drunken PM, saying how much I'm a shitty person and I deserve this.
Now I'm gloating, bitch.
I ended up filing a police report and then for an order of protection against PM. Eventually, the case between ES and PM were joined, but that was much later. During the 3 weeks that we waited for court, Katie wasn't allowed any contact with the kids. He tried once, but was told that they were busy, and ES couldn't be bothered to get them to talk to him. I barely got to speak to them once a week. During one call, ES revealed that N was in trouble, was in timeout, because she had apparently hit N1. Going further, she revealed that N2 had bit L, and so N had shoved her or something away from her little sister. N1 then swung to N for attacking her sister. Then N hit her in self-defense. Remember that N1 is the eldest of these four. N was a stockier build than N, who was slight. I asked what was being done about her daughters attacking mine, and she just skirted the question and refused to address it. So basically nothing. The first appearance finally came, and ES appeared. The judge asked where the children were, and she said that she had left them back in her state with our aunt and her own kids. Because
I don't think it would be that big of a deal to drag them out of bed so early.
the judge had asked when the last time we had seen the kids was, and was stunned to learn that we hadn't seen them since they had left a month before, that she refused us visitation on Elle's birthday even. She ordered that ES produce them at the next appearance a week later. Meanwhile, the CPS worker who had been both to mine and Katie's home to check them and determine suitability stated that there was no reason that the children shouldn't be home with us. The children's law guardian, however, literally argued with the CPS worker in front of the judge. My attorney let me read the confidential CPS report, so long as I don't take it out of the courtroom, and I only had until the judge began proceedings. I didn't get far, but far enough to learn that I was severely mentally ill and that the father of the children suffers from mental retardation. Shocking, considering he's a salaried manager on his job. At the next appearance a week later, the kids were there, and the judge reversed her previous ruling, reinstating the existing custody order that KD and I had. Our kids were returned to us, with literally the clothes on their backs, everything including the Build-A-Bear lamb that N had gotten for her birthday, and even their car seats, which had been left back in ES's state because she told the children,
"Don't worry, you'll be back tomorrow."
She had stayed in a hotel downtown in the city, only half a mile from me, the night prior, but I hadn't been able to see my children. Oh, PM had also stayed the night with them at the hotel. During the appearance, the judge had offered ES the opportunity to appear by phone at the next appearance, and ES had made this entire whole speech about how it was too important, that these children are too neglected in their parents' care, and that she should make the journey to ensure they were properly cared for and could come home to her. The next appearance, things didn't go any better for her than the previous one, and at that point, the case against PM was joined. The law guardian argued with CPS worker, making it abundantly clear that rather than representing the children's interests and desires, as she was assigned and mandated to do, but rather was working diligently with ES to try to ensure she got custody returned. Eventually, the CPS supervisor had to appear and give a report to the court, because she was sick of the law guardian attempting to undermine her people and wasting her time. So for the next appearance, ES appeared by teleconference. It was a fiasco. She repeatedly interrupted the judge in order to scold her own daughters, stopped what she was saying because one of her daughters needed something. Over a 20-minute period, she had stopped not less than 5 minutes to deal with her kids, including literally yelling at them, all while technically in the midst of a court appearance. The judge didn't allow her to teleconference again. Meanwhile, she was attempting to get an attorney to represent her in this, but because she had even less than no leg to stand on, not a single one would take the case. No attorney in her state who was actually able to practice in mine would touch this case. And when she came to my city to attempt to hire one, they all laughed her out of their offices. She showed up one day, finally bringing the girls' belongings over 2 months later, including their car seats, and agreed to meet to return them on the street where all the lawyers had hung their shingles. I just snickered to myself when she told me where to meet her, as I knew why she'd be on that particular block. All of the girls' belongings were in a huge black trash bag, and there was no way I could carry it home myself. So I had to agree to allow her to go to the girls' school where I had to pick them up, and then bring us home. Once there, she was all over them on the playground, following them as if they were invalids. My mom's friend just stared and tried to figure out who this crazy lady was, especially as she kept referring to herself in the third person to them. I managed to get a ride home from a friend instead of her, because at that point, I didn't even want her to know where our home was. At the next appearance, finally she gave up, withdrawing her petition to seek custody. Both my attorney and KD's were simultaneously filling out motions to dismiss as it was. ES still tried to contact the children only a few days later, The judge had strongly urged that, given the length of time they were in her home, that I continue to allow contact between ES and the kids, and she demanded that I do so right then, claiming I have rights. At that point, I told her point blank that only the rights she actually had were the ones I allowed her, and encouraged her to actually look up the case law regarding grandparents' rights. She stopped even trying to call within the next couple of weeks. Nowadays, she has no contacts with my kids, and they want none with her, because they recognize that she's absolutely insane. Woo! That was a long one. Jeez. I have never done a Reddit reading so long. That was 20 minutes of me talking and reading a book. Hey, got any Audible places out there want to throw me a sponsorship? I'm here for you. That took me like 2.5-ish days to finish. That was ridiculous. Holy God. But let's talk about this for right now. There was a lot to unpack in this particular video. I can't even imagine going through a scenario where your own blood steals your kids. Literally steals your I mean, like, isn't that a form of kidnapping? What, like, I want to know what this falls underneath. I'm pretty sure she broke some sort of law. I mean, obviously, it's your flesh and blood. You don't want them behind bars, but I kind of want to explore how many laws were broken in this. She literally stole children. I cannot fathom the amount of animosity one could hold towards another person. Now, I have siblings. One I don't get along with too well, but I know they wouldn't go to this length to get back at me, though they have done some pretty shifty things. But this was a level. This was a level of insanity that, like, this is how bridges get burned. I mean, easy. You'll never talk to that side of the family again. Holy God, I need to know what you guys thought about this story in the comment section below. I know, again, this was a long one. This whole thing was just one story. Usually I give you a couple, but this one was so long that I felt that the whole video's focus should be on it. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. How many laws were actually broken in this particular scenario? I need to know. I want to know. I want to know if you have any less than savory relatives in your life that maybe not to this extent, but to an extent has severely negatively affected your life at any point in time. This one was a cornucopia of just holy cow, and it just got worse and worse and worse. But I'm going to thank you guys very much for watching. I'm going to thank you very much for following along. You can hear my voices almost back. Not quite there. I can't do my funny, silly voices yet, but my voice is almost back. It's still got its rasp to it, which is definitely hurting the vocal chops, as well as I can't imagine the human body being able to produce this much phlegm. I don't know why. I just been sick so much. But I thank you guys very much for watching, and I thank you very much for following along. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to ring that bell icon. Also, smash that like button because it totally helps out. You guys have been great. You guys have been fantastic. And as usual, as always, my friends, stay frosty and keep moving forward.